One of the reasons I wanted to have you on the program is because you are such a proud Australian, and I want to get your thoughts on where you think Australia is at the moment. You're, of course, always speaking to politicians, ordinary Australians every single day on your radio program. Is Australia in a bit of pain at the moment?
I think Australia's stressed. I think that particularly Sydney, Australia, where I live, ever since October 7, so 2 years plus now, there has been a rather dark cloud hanging over Sydney. And one of the reasons is because even though we're a long way away from Gaza, but we've got people living in Sydney. We're a very multicultural, multi-faith society. So we've got Jewish people living in Sydney. We've got Palestinian Islamic people living in Sydney. We've got people originally from Israel, people originally from Palestine. And that's been a really difficult thing to navigate, because after the horrors of October 7, to then see within 24 hours protests against the Jewish community on the steps of the Opera House, that is when the trouble started in Sydney.
Horrific.
And it pretty much hasn't stopped since. We had 2 years of it, and then to have the Bondi Beach terror attack, where two people inspired by Islamic State drove up in a car to our most popular beach, a beach that's been featured on TV shows and movies around the world. And they got out of the car, allegedly. We have to say that because one of them is still alive and one of them is going to be before the courts. We don't have to say it about the other one. The father of the two got out and shot and killed people in cold blood. We can say that without legal fears. We have to use the word allegedly in relation to the son, but the son got out of the car and started allegedly opening fire and hunting down Jews on Bondi Beach. And I think the 2+ years in between were really stressful. Then that was just so chaotic and tragic. And, you know, I've got 3 young kids. And I can remember a week after, my daughter Pearl, who's only 9, she said to me, I want to go to Bondi. And I said, okay, when do you want to go? She said, I want to go tomorrow morning. So it was 1 week on. And I said to her, you sure? She said, yes. I was trying to say, you sure you're ready for that? Because it's confronting, right? You've got all of those piles of flowers and teddy bears and notes and cards. And I was really inspired by her, the fact that she said she wanted to go there. She wanted to read all of the letters that people had left behind. We spoke to police officers. We spoke to surf lifesavers, who are the guys and girls who protect our beaches and look after people. Usually when people aren't used to swimming, a lot of people come in from other parts of the world where they're not born in the ocean and in the surf like we are in Australia. Usually those surf lifesavers have got a very important job of saving people when they're in trouble in the ocean. On this day, they were instead running towards alleged terrorists with guns, hunting down people because they're Jewish. And there are other people who aren't Jewish who were caught up in the gunfire as well, people who lost their lives. And the documentary that went to air on Sky News just recently by Shari Markson, I think was one of the most incredible pieces of journalism I've seen. And the thread that really stood out for me was people sacrificing their own lives, because as much as we say, I'd do that, you don't know until it happens. And there were people, you know, the other common thread, there were parents who were throwing themselves on children.
Yeah.
And there was a young girl who's 14. She doesn't have her own children, but she saw a mother slump carrying 2 little children. So she ran over and grabbed those children, and she just screamed over the loud gunfire constantly, I love you, I love you, I love you, because that's all she could think of saying to these poor kids, and trying to reassure them that they were going to be okay. Of course, they're worried about their mum and their dad. I mean, it was just, and look, I know that people in other parts of the world who are watching this might be more accustomed to some of the gun violence that we saw on that day in Bondi Beach, but we're not used to it here.
No, it was so horrific, and we're only 3 months on from that attack. Of course, as you say, one of the threads was the bravery that was shown, the resilience of the Australian spirit really coming together, doing what they could. It was extraordinary, and we should be so proud of that. The other thread, though, was that a lot of the warnings were ignored. There was antisemitism exploding over the last 2 years. You know, we saw we saw schools being targeted, we saw synagogues being targeted, and it was almost inevitable that something was going to happen. And I think there is still a very real fear that there is clearly radicalisation in
doubt.
Sydney. We've
No
got
doubt.
ISIS brides coming back.
Well, just a few things on that. I mean, it's been revealed today in the Daily Telegraph, one of our leading newspapers here in Australia, that the father and son duo travelled towards Afghanistan, didn't make it there. They went through another country trying to get into Afghanistan. So there's an obvious question there. What were they wanting to do on a nation that's known as a terror hotspot? But the anti-Semitism crisis that's been unfolding for more than 2 years, there's a saying that we use in Australia, which I'm sure we've pinched from America because it's an NFL reference, but it's a Monday quarterback. And it's like the idea of everyone's an expert on Monday after the weekend of football, where they say, oh, no, this is what I would have done. This is how I would have secured the touchdown. Everyone can be a Monday morning quarterback of saying, this is how I would have performed, when really you weren't on the field. There's no Monday morning quarterbacking going on here. It's not like the politicians in Australia can say, oh, well, we didn't know, nobody told us. You were literally told in writing.
Again and again.
Our Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese, was told in writing, including from some people who died at Bondi.
I can't. It's so horrific.
To say, this is a crisis, it's not being treated seriously, something awful is about to happen. And it happened. So for the Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese, there's no defending it. It's in black and white, it's in writing. On many other stories and situations, you can say, well, look, I wasn't made aware. I wasn't fully briefed by the department. I had a bit of an idea of what might happen, but there's no way of guessing these things. On this one, nobody told him what date it was going to happen. Nobody told him the address of where it was going to happen, but he was told something like this is going to happen.